Hey everyone, Stephanie Lucrecio coming to you live with Brio TV and the amazing Kevin Jenkins from Urban Global Health Alliance, my friends, my colleague, my partner in freedom.
That's right.
So glad you're here. And we are coming to you today because, hold on, there's some sort of thing popping up. We had a day yesterday in New Jersey with some political things. If you live in New Jersey, you know that there is so much going on right now with masking, what the new normal looks like in schools, things that they're doing that are going to affect our taxes and how we live here in New Jersey. And Kevin and I have been on the phone the last 24 hours several times, and we just thought it was important to have this conversation today as soon as possible. So we're waiting a couple of moments for people to come on, and then we're going to dive in and do what Kevin and I love to do most, which is keep it real. That's how we roll.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. So I was talking to him yesterday, and we know from Facebook that there are a lot of very upset people regarding what happened yesterday with that $9.9 billion thing that they're passing that's going to affect us. And I found it very interesting because when I was talking to you, your response was, it was the best day ever. So I wanted to start with that conversation because, of course, my mind was blown when you said this. But then when it explains why, I'm like, yes, I love you, Kevin.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. Let's talk about.
Well, let me just tell you, and let me give some context to that. So yesterday, in my community, we've been having conversations about the effectiveness of our local elected officials. And we've watched over the last several decades where we've had maybe one or two that understood the seriousness of having an effective, plan for your city, looking out towards the future for your city, bringing the best and brightest into your city so we can expand economically. And what we've seen basically, up in maybe one or two good examples over the last 50 years, we've seen a dismal failure. So yesterday for me, when I saw the Black American legislature stumble and fall in the middle of this big national debate on Black Lives Matter, institutional racism, systemic racism, for them to drop the ball yesterday to get a seat at the table that they should have already, I just say, wow, it is now we all see it in the light. Now we see it. We've been talking about this internally. We've been talking about it in our communities, in our homes, but we saw that, and that was really a horrible example of leadership. But guess what? I'm glad it happened. Because now we can have a deeper conversation in our own community. I always say we need an internal war, not an external war, because we have some stuff in our neighborhoods and our communities that we have to deal with. But one of the things that we've been saddled with is inept, incompetent, and impotent leadership. And that is a fact. For the last 50 years in cities like Newark, cities like Chicago, Black cities across America, we've had, a large majority of people leading those cities, Black mayors, Black congressmen, Black senators. And I'm saying, wait a minute, in the 21st century, we're in another dark period in history. You couldn't even stand firm with a young man like Jamel Holly, an older gentleman and senior leader like Ron Rice and some of his colleagues in his chamber on the Senate side, to ask for representation on a committee that's going to be making decisions. We don't know what decisions. We can get back to that. And to say that we want a seat at the table, first of all, it was offensive that he even had to ask. It was offensive that Ron Rice had to even go and beg his colleagues. Even one of his colleagues said with such confidence, I think Loretta Weinberg, we don't have time for that right now. There's something looming over here that we have to deal with. But the $200 billion deficit that the state already has, this $10 billion is just going to be added to the taxpayer. But to get back to what I was very happy about is that it happened. That Black Americans that are elected to the legislature that represent cities like Newark, Irvington, East Orange, and Orange, they say we don't want a seat at the table. They say we don't want to be there. But all of them were marching in Black Lives Matter marches. All of them were painting signs in the street. All of them even had I think the Black Caucus Foundation had something in remembrance of 1619, and they dropped the ball. They dropped the ball. And that's what they've been doing in these cities across America. They've been dropping the ball. And our dirty secret is we don't want to talk about it. Oh, we should not talk about it. But our kids are being damaged. Right now, we are on a battleground for our constitutional rights. I'm on the battleground for my constitutional rights and still seeking my full citizenship in this country. And those Black elected officials could not stand with that dynamic black male, that dynamic black man that's been fighting on these issues, just like Ron Rice, just like Nia Gill, just like some of his colleagues, I think Senator Turner on the Senate side, they didn't have enough guts to stand up for their people, stand up for their community, demand a seat at the table. They said, no, we don't think that Black Americans should have a seat at the table. So the question for me is, why are you there? Why do we need you? You need to be ran out of office. I always say this, and this is the big dirty secret. Okay, this is a big dirty secret. What's happening in our cities is happening right now because of what? Black Americans have lost their understanding of what leadership is all about. Black Americans now don't work for their constituents. They work for a warped conglomerate of companies and their special interests or the greater global liberal elite that are driving them and driving their policies. That's killing my people.
Absolutely.
And guess what? And they're responsible for it because we put them in front of us. So we have to start making better business decisions about who we put in office. But yesterday was a great day. Now you know why the Black American leaders, I say Black American electeds, I have another name for them, but now we know why we get nothing done, because they have no power. They have no voice.
The crazy thing
wait a minute though, you gotta let me spend some time here. So Black Lives Matter, but not in the boardroom.
Exactly.
Black Lives Matter, but not at a seat at the table dealing with a fiscal issue that's going to impact all of us as New Jerseyans, but we know what it's going to do to the poor and disadvantaged. Right now, we're not at that table, and they voted against their own interests. So now we've been saying it, some of us in our community that live in truth, right? We've been saying that they have dropped the ball. They don't work for us. They're not committed to us. That's why in the fall, they're going to allow our children, our Black boys and girls, the most precious thing we have in our life, and they're going to allow a corporate community, the conglomerate, I call it, the global liberal elite, to take our kids and experiment on our kids mentally, socially, physically, and spiritually. Mm-hmm. They have brought hook, line, and sinker, right? Yeah. What is getting ready to happen to our kids and not question it one time. You know why? Because yesterday proved without a shadow of a doubt, that they don't work for us. They don't even know how to work for themselves. They voted against their interests. Now, let's look at New Jersey. New Jersey, 95% of the African Americans in New Jersey voted for this governor. And we play a prominent role in this state. We get basically majority of the state is controlled. The major cities in the country, in the city is controlled by Black people, right?
Yeah.
We still have failing schools. We still have a local economy that we don't even have a local economy. Right? All of the wealth that's coming into that's being developed in the city is leaving the city every day. And these kinds of things have been in a perpetual cycle since I've been born.
Yeah.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Now we're in the 21st century. So I'm saying yesterday showed me without a shadow of a doubt, and I want everybody to understand what I'm saying. These people are going to take your life and give it away to Big Pharma and Big Tech. They're going to take your child and put it into an educational environment, which they already are lacking in. And they're going to destroy whatever humanness, whatever social construct, and they're going to box these kids in and torture these kids in those schools. And then what comes after that? You all know what comes after that. That's called body control, mind control. Mm-hmm. Now, is that a conspiracy or is that a fact, an historical fact? So now look what happened yesterday. Black Americans that are elected that represent poor districts like Newark, and other surrounding towns, we now know without a shadow of a doubt they don't care about you. And that's been my narrative around the country. This government has dropped the ball. This government does not care about us. Right now in this state, we have some of the highest taxes in this state. We have you're talking about every day I get up, I have another friend leaving New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Every day I have friends have left New Jersey in droves, right? So we are not a state where people are confident in the leadership in the first place. But we all do know there's certain leaders in the state that control it, that get the benefit from it, that get the ability to push their people through the system. And yesterday what you saw was the fact that none of those Black Americans that are elected on the legislature, in particular on the assembly side, There was no support for Jamel Holly. You know what they did? They ran to table it.
Mm-hmm.
So they tabled the Black community. They tabled the Black voice. They tabled the Black truth. They said, we don't want to be in a room. Let them kill us. Let them marginalize us. So I'm glad you led with that.
No, and I think it's so important because you see all around the world these leaders coming out for Black Lives Matter protests. You know, Governor Murphy was out there with his mask, you know, marching with people. And it's all just smoke show. Because at the end of the day, when it comes time to walk the walk and to show that Black Lives Matter, Black leadership matters, and that they want a seat at the table to make some of the important decisions that are going to affect my community, your community, every single community that stands in New Jersey, they turn a blind eye and just keep going. So the thing that I want to talk about specifically with you is how all of these things are going to impact our children, because Urban Global Health Alliance is about protecting the health and wellness of this generation and the generations to come. And you and I have had several conversations about how every aspect of our children's future, our children's freedom, our children's health decisions, and now being in these, what I like to call indoctrination camps that are going to become the schools of, you know, post-COVID, the things that we're seeing. Why is it so important now for everybody to unify and to be together? We see so many people going on. I mean, I was on this morning on Jamel's page and seeing people that I stood with in Trenton, you know, writing things and disappointed. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. I come from an Italian family and our motto is always keep your issues, whatever you have, keep it in the family. Don't publicize it. Don't shame people. Don't let people know where there's division. And I'm finding specifically in the medical freedom movement lately, there's a lot of that going on. And I don't see how people don't get that this hurts our movement. This hurts our children. This hurts our effectiveness as a movement, as a group. So can you talk to that?
But let me give you some context on that. Anytime you're moving forward and anytime you're fighting the conglomerate that we're fighting, the global liberal elite, right? Anytime you're fighting this big monster, I'm almost certain in every movement, and since I've been born, there's been some tug and pull. There's been some what people should do, what people shouldn't do. And, you know, we all live in different spaces to drive or try to create some, I guess, support for our efforts around protecting our children and protecting our bodies and protecting our constitutional rights and our medical freedoms and our religious exemption. I mean, religious rights, right? Yep. So we get that. And and we have to expect that. And so what our job is, just like we're doing now, we're having a deeper conversation because what happened yesterday just triggered so many things that are going to happen to the Black community, to kids all across the state of New Jersey. We're going to be creating more of a negative effect on how we take care of our children. So in every great movement, we have some people that might not get it. We have some people that might not see the long view. We have some people that might just want their thing fixed for them at that particular moment, which in fact, they shouldn't be a part of a movement. They should be just working on what they need to work on. So I get that. I've been in groups before and I've seen this before. But our job as people that are concerned about our future and our children is to set the record straight.
Yes.
Right? Let's set the record straight.
Please.
So, right now, since January, we've been fighting all over the country to bring other communities and get them involved in this discussion. That is primary. Second thing we did is we created an institution, right? A global institution can speak in many spaces and many times to give education advocacy, right? Advocacy, and then deal with the public policy that we had to deal with since January, since I've been engaged and went down that rabbit hole where I would be for the rest of my life, right? So then after that, we started aligning and developing other relationships nationally that will allow us to have a bigger voice in the spiritual space, the religious space, I should say, and in the community space, door to door, barbershop to barbershop, neighborhood to neighborhood, we don't care if it's a Hispanic neighborhood, a Black neighborhood, a white neighborhood, to have that conversation. So I think people that might be disappointed in a particular vote misses the whole focus of what we're trying to accomplish, because for 15 years, you've been out here in the wilderness, saying something is wrong with my child. And now there are other communities are saying, you know what, by the way, something has been wrong with my child also. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, we have to keep our priorities straight. We have to stay single focused because we're dealing with a big monster. Mm. We're dealing with an industry on one side, which is big pharma, that wants our bodies for profit, right? And then we're dealing with big tech, When we gave them all of our information for free, now they're going to join together to control what we eat, control what we purchase, control when we go to the doctor, control when we travel. That's where we should be focused on.
Absolutely.
We should be focused on that. See, that's the political movement. That's the next phase of the movement. See, the next phase is always hard. You know, it's always hard. Even when Martin Luther King was saying we need to deal with the issue of poverty, some of his key people say, no, Martin, we need to deal with the issue of civil rights. He said, well, you can't deal with the issue of civil rights if we don't have economic rights. We don't have economic opportunity. So we're in the same situation now in this movement. You got to decide where you want to be, what you want to do when you grow up. Mm-hmm. So now we got to stay single focused on that because we are fighting for our lives. Black man in Newark, New Jersey, you know, white woman in New Jersey. I mean, Marsha's in Virginia. I mean, everybody around this country now is saying, wait a minute, they were right all along. Now, you might want to be confused about that, but those women were right. So let's not lose what we're building. Let's not take a deep breath, because it was one young Black man over all of his colleagues in the chamber named Jamal Holly that came out and fought, right, when nobody wanted to fight. But not only did he come out to fight, he put his whole political career on the line, because the party that he represents, he's a part of, but it's not his identity. He represents people. He's not like what we saw yesterday with the Democrats. I mean, those Democrats, those Black Democrats that voted against getting a seat at the table, those Black Democrats clearly showed you that they were more Democratic than they were Black American. So now we're in the middle of this struggle of ideology in this process. I get it. Been there, done that. Right. But now it's our job to keep us single focused, because guess what? It's at our door now. Contact tracing's at our door now. Your kids will have to get immunized in the next several weeks. Right. They're setting you up. And then all of you single Black mothers, all of you single white mothers, all of you grandparents taking care of your kids, the ones that don't have the resources, now they're going to con you and say, we're going to give you a computer. Oh, and by the way, you just stay trapped in your house and we'll have some teachers instruct you. So you're going to take the humanness from my child, the ability for them to social engage, right? Screw him up mentally, lower his immune system, make him sicker, make him mentally sicker, make him spiritually sicker. Can you imagine? That is what I am fighting. That's what we should all be fighting against. So all of the other stuff, is completely out of place, and it's irrelevant, because guess what? I'm gonna say it one more time. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's at our door.
It is.
It's not because you're white. It's not because I'm Black.
No.
They have this political system, right? Let me just break it down for you. Mm-hmm. The body politic of this country, in particular the Democratic Party, has aligned itself with a global agenda, right? To what? Wipe us off the face of the earth. Now, politically, some of my friends that might be Democrats might say, oh, Kevin, you know, that's kind of harsh. Well, if you've been living for 57 years in Newark, New Jersey, I've seen it all. Okay. And guess what? I'm well read and I'm grounded in my Blackness. I'm grounded in my history. And guess what? I understand how institutions operate. And I've worked in government, in business, and community development all of my life. So I have some experience when I see the con job coming. So now they're going to give them laptops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the cost of that. And the thing, I think that when you talk about singular focus, I think that the problem with a lot of people is they're singularly focused on just the vaccine issue. And what they fail to understand and to see is that it's all tied together and connected in this giant puzzle of evil to take over every part of our child's life. So people who are in the medical freedom space need to be concerned about contact tracing, need to be concerned about masks in school, need to be concerned about the curriculums that are being rolled out in these schools, some of the things that they're looking to teach our children, because all of this is connected. And one of the other things that I find very interesting and very fascinating when I talk to you is your strong position on the Democratic Party. So since we're talking about politics, you know, can we dive a little bit into, and obviously we already spoke about Jamel, even though he's part of that party, it's not his identity. And I think within the Democratic Party right now, you're seeing a divide. You're seeing the true blue Democrats that we knew in the days of Kennedy, and you're seeing these extreme Democrats that are what I like to call government mafia at this point. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. So can we create that distinction and talk a little bit about I love you, from your experience in the community, from your experience as a Black man living in Newark and knowing what this party has done and has not done for your community? Can we dispel some of those myths?
Well, let me just say this to you from being a local Newarker. I grew up in a city where, Black Americans were always striving to be better, and they had a higher level of standards, and they always encouraged us to be great, right? So I grew up in that kind of community, and that was a great experience for me. But over the last several decades, and just to give you a disclaimer, I was a Republican for a very, very long time. And when Trump became the president of the United States of America, I made a decision not to be a Republican. So I made a decision to step away from a party that I had a great relationship with, nationally, and has done some very, very great business with. And I got to be honest with you, I've supported some some Republicans in the state of New Jersey. And a lot of the Democrats you talked to today were with me in the room supporting those Republican Democrats. So back then it was about the business of the people. It was about how we move our city and our state forward. And you know what? And sometimes Democratic governors didn't do a good job and they had to go. And we can get onto that later. But what I found out is over the last 50 years and looking historically at this and looking at our relationship with the Democratic Party, it was an abusive relationship. I mean, to the point that, what the Democratic Party, the liberal Democratic Party, and all of these different groups in there, they were only interested in using the Black American as a tool, as a commodity for their wealth and their power. So that I started looking at what the negative impacts of that was on housing policy, social justice policies, mass incarceration policies, what happened from the Clinton administration all the way back to Obama, now Trump. And I had to do a personal assessment of my relationship when I became a Democrat, because I became a Democrat thinking that I could be in a party of people that were thinking about transitioning out of the Jim Crow system that Black Americans are still living under right now, and talking about how can we reverse the mass incarceration rates in the country. And then I had to do a deeper dive and realize, wait a minute, I've just joined the same group of people that's responsible for all the things I've said. I mean, so just in your last election, I supported Phil Murphy. I supported him, raised money for him. He was at 0%. When we got involved, he became the governor, right? But guess what? I made a mistake. So I made a mistake. I personally, as a human being, made a mistake. And guess what? The Democratic Party, as we know it now, is the same Democratic Party, Jim Crow Democratic Party. And you saw it yesterday.
Yeah. You
saw it yesterday. But here's something I just wanted to add that happened yesterday that didn't say. 24 white Republican males in the assembly voted for the amendment to add a Black American and they said Latino on the committee. And 95, 98%, 99% of the Black Americans voted against having Black representation, Latino president. Now, that's the disease of the Democratic Party. That Black Americans believe, Black electeds believe that they are more Democratic than they are Black American. That they're not responsible for the dark stuff in their neighborhood. Their job is just to manage poverty. See, this is what I'm saying. So the Democratic Party starves our community, right, with their legislation. And if you've seen just what happened during this COVID thing, what they were doing, a surveillance. I mean, the Democratic Party packed that stimulus bill with so many things to benefit Big Pharma and Big Tech. That is why I'm pushing away. That's why I'm challenging the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has not been a friend to the Black community whatsoever. Now, they have pacified us. They have pandered us. They've even bought some of us off. I mean, right now, we don't even have a moral voice in this city, right, that's speaking about the fact that what's getting ready to happen and what's at my door is going to wipe out this Black community. It's going to wipe it out. So now you're just deconstructing our school system. You're breaking down and turning our kids into guinea pigs. And guess who's driving that? The Democratic Party. The Democratic governor.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's the party that you're getting ready to give 95% of your time to again. Now that's mental illness. And yesterday I saw that mental illness. I love it. It was like a perfect day. Like bang, We told you this was going to happen. We knew this was going on, but now you see it in full glory. So now the Democratic Party is not a friend. So now here's the other political thing in New Jersey, right now in New Jersey. All of the Black Americans that sit on the various committees in the state of New Jersey basically are just fronts for the white establishment.
Say that again, because you broke up a little bit.
They're fronts for the white establishment. Mm-hmm. They're fronts for because now you know why I say white establishment? Because there are no black establishments. All right? So don't get offended. There are none. Now that's systemic, I should say, racism. That's structural racism. All the way down from the corporate community, the community development community, right? And all the way down to the various organizations. They're all being managed by outside funding. Okay? That's it. So let's get right drilled down to it. So how can I consciously, as a black man, after seeing 2 to 3 million black American men and women incarcerated by a Democratic policy, right, that has destroyed generations of my community, that's where I'm at. I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about my relationship with you. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about how that relationship has impacted me. So now, if you go back, since Murphy's been elected, all he's done is pander to black people. And guess who's giving them cover? Black, local, elected officials. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll say it one more time. Black, local, elected officials. They are now the gatekeepers and the wholesalers of poverty, right? Of poverty. So they sell us garbage. So now they know that the church is closed up because all of the black churches disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't know where they went. I mean, maybe they're waiting for another plague. I haven't figured that out. Now, they have some good ministers out there that are speaking the truth, like our friend and brother in Connecticut, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the deal. So what are we talking about here? Our love affair with the Democratic Party has been the worst thing that we could ever do in our lives. And in the state of New Jersey, you see it every day. It's slave politics, slave mentality. And guess what? It's happening in the White House. I mean, it's happening in the Congress. It's happening in the Senate somewhere. We only got Cory Booker there and somebody else, but what the hell? That's like doing nothing.
What you're describing is like an abusive marriage. So
I'm
it's like
nice. I'm just being nice because abusive marriage is horrible, but I got something worse I can say, but I can't.
But that's kind of like where I'm at right now. It's like, why do we keep staying? And what's happening as a result of this is they're doing a really great job of creating this great divide. So it's like, you're white, I'm black, you're Republican, I'm Democrat. We can't unite on anything because at the end of the day, when you divide, you can then conquer.
No, I beg to disagree.
Tell me.
I agree with you. There is a divide. There is a divide.
Okay, good.
The divide is you and I. That we allow those fools to do that to us. It's our fault.
Agreed.
It's our fault. It's not their fault. If they can muzzle you with a mask knowing that's going to kill you, that's your fault. If they can trap you in your house for almost 18 months and give you a couple of dollars and say life is going to be better on the other side because I'm going to give you a vaccine, that's your fault. If you're going to wait around to be microchipped, if you're going to be waited around for your kids to be destroyed, that's your fault. So the divide is not created by them. The divide is created by us. That's why having you talk to me like this, split, we come more together because you can give me your perspective. I can give you my perspective. But because we're talking about New Jersey politics, is a plantation politics that are singular focus on special groups and special interests building their wealth. And we are used as a commodity to do that. And the Black American elected official is responsible for it. So
let me get your viewpoint as far as moving forward. We all want the same thing, in my opinion. We all want
I don't think we do.
Okay, but as far as our children go, do we want them to grow up in a healthy, free, happy society? No. Say more about that.
No. And you know what? That's where we are. But like if I'm going to say a little piece on the divide, that's why having an attitude or attacking Assemblyman Hawley when he was fighting for his people and all people, right? That is the kind of divide that we don't need. So we're fueling it. Now, it was not a lot. I'm just saying none of us should be in that space mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? So now here's the deal. And you talked about our children. Well, as of this August, we will not have any children. They will not be our children anymore.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
They will be experimented on. They will be constantly living in fear. They will get sicker. They will lose their hope. They will lose their connectedness. They will be the IE, the artificial intelligence before artificial intelligence. And then you have some teachers out there saying, oh, I don't want to go back to work and it's not safe. Well, those teachers, I hate to say this, don't come back to work because you're not safe, because you should be doing your homework to understand that if you sign on to something like that, you're destroying our children. Now, let's talk about the politics of that. Mm-hmm. Now, you got the NJEA and all of these other teacher organizations trying to develop a global, regional, national campaign to say, oh, we can stay home, or if you come back to school, you got to take, now the kid has to suffer. Mm-hmm. The child has to suffer. Yeah. Not the people that are making the decisions.
And the crazy thing is that the government is supposed to be for the constituents. It's supposed to be for the people. Something as important as the issue of the education of our children, you would think that parents would be involved in that discussion, as far as more than just sending me a survey, having a town hall meeting, being able to express our concerns, being able to express our opinions about this new normal that they're trying to create inside the schools. And we're left out of the table. We're left off the table. We're not part of the discussion. The decisions are made for us, and we just have to live with them and make hard choices. I mean, I have a 12-year-old son who this virtual learning experience was not a positive one for him. And he just wants to be normal. He just wants to go back to school and be with his friends. He can't possibly understand or grasp what that's going to look like and what the consequences to his physical, emotional, and spiritual health will be in the long run. So they're almost handcuffing parents in a position where these decisions are made, and then you're left to make these horrible, gut-wrenching choices about how do you navigate the future for your child.
Well, hey, listen, I got to tell you something. I can't paint a more horrible narrative when I tell you how I feel about it, what they're going to do with our children. But, you know, there's going to be a lot of mothers in these inner cities. This is going to be the horrible part, that are going to almost be forced to turn over their child to this system, this destructive system that they have prepared for their kids. You know, so they're going to think about what I'm saying to you. They don't have the resources to stay home. They don't have the resources. Now, half of them don't even have a job probably right now. Yeah. So they don't have the resources. So you know what their remedy is? To suggest we're going to give every child in New Jersey a computer, and that's going to make life all better. No, what they're doing is being very clever about this. What they're doing is they're saying, you know what, by the beginning of the year, we're just not going to let the schools open anyway. We're probably going to take money from the Gates Foundation about 121 million some odd dollars. Now we're broke now, but he's giving $121 million for some computers without proper instruction, without anything. We don't even know the long-term damage is going to have on our children. Right. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the technology is going to do. We don't know. See, let's think about what I'm saying to you. Yeah. So that's what they did yesterday, because they don't have a seat at any of the tables talking about that kind of conversation. So when you talk about a child and a child's development, with all the other things that it goes through, and let's not talk about the children that are handicapped. Let's not talk about the children with autism. Let's not talk about the children that have all other kinds of issues, that they are now systematically creating a system, right, that is going to destroy whatever is left or whatever they hold dear in their heart as human beings. So that's deep. Right. So this is what happened yesterday. This is what's been happening in New Jersey. And I got to tell you something. The legislature in New Jersey in the last 8 to 9 months have been horrible. We should not want them as legislators anymore. They did not legislate. Now, 2 weeks into this, I get it. Yeah. 5 weeks in this, you're a little confused. But we all know the science. We all know the data. We all know what's in front of us. We all know what industries are involved in this. We all see the flip-flopping from who.
Well, we don't all know. You and I know.
But I'm saying we're the agents of change, right? We are the ones we have to tell everybody. So, you know, we know that the Surgeon General is flip-flop on masks, but he knows it's dangerous. We know, we've seen it. But here's the deal. There's a group of people out there that if we don't keep talking like this, without being politically correct, but meaning managing yourself emotionally and spiritually to get it done, we're going to be in trouble. So all of that mess that's going to happen in those schools are going to spill right back on us. All of the lack of hope and the capacity to develop effective human capital that can grow our cities, grow our communities, raise communities, make money, be engaged at that level. That's going to be it. So if we agree to this, if we let them get away with this, that's what's going to happen. So it's not anybody else but our fault. Now, listen, it's our fault. I want you to be clear. What's getting ready to happen to your child is your fault.
So When you say it's our fault, and I completely 100% agree with you, let's pinpoint some of the things that as parents, as grandparents, we're doing or not doing. Because one of the biggest problems I see right now, and one of the things that I've been very vocal about, as you probably know from being on Facebook with me, is the masks. You know, people are in an outrage about the possibility of their children returning to school with the mandated mask policy. Yet I'm a unicorn in a sea of sheep in every store that I go to. The only person willing to take a stand and say, you know what, this isn't good for my health, I'm not doing it. So why aren't parents doing the research? Why aren't they spending the time? Why are they discrediting articles, things that come out that show that masks are not safe, they're not effective, and they're not necessary? Why do we just keep doing this? What is it going to take for parents, Black, white, Chinese, Latino, whatever it is, to pull down the mask and to be brave enough to stand with our children in solidarity and say enough is enough? We're not doing it.
Yeah, listen, if I knew that,
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about it is this, when you talk about children, when you talk about yourself as a young person, and me as a young person, there were some parents that were very active and some parents that weren't very active. There were some parents that just didn't know what to do. And I get all of that. I think a lot of people now are just, every day they turn on mainstream media and they're lied to every day. Mm-hmm. And, that's a very scary proposition, that majority of the people in this country are so wedded to something that's lying to them every day that scares me more than anything.
So let's talk about that.
That scares me.
It scares me too. And I have this conversation with my parents. Like, my parents and I will talk, and my dad is like a big CNN guy, and we have like these heated debates on the phone. It drives me crazy. And I'm like, Dad, turn off the news. I'm at the beach yesterday with my mom, and we're waiting at a restaurant, and we're standing at the hostess table, and she's like, okay, you need a mask. And I'm like, to eat? She goes, no, just to walk to the table, you need to have a mask on. And then when you get there, you can take it off. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. So we sit down at the table, and I'm talking to my mom about the news, because she keeps telling me the stuff that's on the news. She's like, you're telling me that everything that I see on the news is a lie. And I'm like, yes, I'm telling you that the news, it's basically a conglomerate of puppets for big industry to perpetuate a narrative that pushes forward their agenda. And it's like mind blown. So I think it's really important for people to get that this is all a hook and bait type situation. They dangle the carrot, and these people just gulp it up. So where would you recommend that people go to find real information that will help them to grow confidence to be able to do the things that we're talking about? Take the mask off, vote in a different way, look in a different place. Where do you suggest that people go for this information?
I'm just going to be very honest with you. I just think some people are just not going to make it through. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, listen, if you don't want to do the work, to save your own life. Now, there's some people in a certain space that just doesn't know anything. They don't know much. And I can understand it. They're not educated at that point that they understand even the cycle of their life at this present moment. Mm-hmm. They have so many different things, so many dark things going on that they might not ever figure it out, right? But here's why we have a government, supposedly. Here's why we have local leaders, supposedly. Here's why we are creating different vehicles to be able to have this conversation and be open about it, right? So there's a lot of spaces. If you go out in the street and paint a Black Lives Matter thing in the street, you could pick up and look at something that's going to give you information to save your life. If you go and march, and march with the mask on and talk about Black Lives Matter, and then go into the State House and forget about Black Lives Matter in business, Black Lives Matter in government. I'm of the opinion now that to build this army, to build this art, to build this new movement, right, we have to work to educate every day and bring new people on every day. So if we can stay single focused on that, I think we win this battle. Now, listen, in my lifetime, I fought a lot of Goliaths. So they're easy to beat. You know why? They're easy to beat because the only way they can be a Goliath if we don't do anything. If we don't push back, if we don't question, if we don't stand on principle, we don't stand on values, if we don't turn our back on our people. And that is what the government has done to us today. That is what corporate America has said. We really don't need you. We control your government now. We control your local government now. And as far as you Black Americans concerned, you're not even in the game. Okay. So now my question is, for all of these people that are still on the sideline, not about the small minority that just can't get here to get where we are, but the ones that are in spaces where I'm at, the spaces where you are, right? They can have a difference of opinion all they want. Fact is fact. Science is science. See, fact is fact. Science is science. It's not what you believe. It's not what you feel. It's not what you think. We're having a logical conversation about the process that's been put in front of us to take control over our lives and destroy the future, the future of our children's lives. I think I'm saying that right tongue tie. But that's the deal. So here's where we are now. So we all have to make personal decisions. So if you an open person, you want to open up your state to go back to work and open up your business. If you are a person that wants to go back to church and praise God and seeks God's face without on a mask that takes your ability to speak to God, if you want to be the person that's going to turn over your baby's body and your sons and daughters' body to big pharma and big tech in those public schools and probably other schools in the country, that is your right. My job as an institutional leader is to educate those groups of people, but to also empower the groups of people that value what we do as an institution, value what we're trying to build as an institution, how we bring hope and focus and action so we can change these things. So that's the real struggle. But the struggle is appropriate because guess what? Not every Black American supported the civil rights movement. Not every Irish person. I mean, so far, we're not monolithic. But there's a group of people out here in the world that are pushing back in Europe, pushing back in Africa, pushing back in Asia. So what we have to do is displace this failed, impotent, incompetent, inept leadership. I mean, local elected officials or people that represent us in the marketplace and lie to us every day, selling us garbage as hope. If you're in a white community, you got to do it. If you're in a Black community, you got to do it. If you're in an Asian, we have to get rid of them because they're not operating with our plan. They're operating with someone else's plan.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the biggest challenge we face is getting people to look at the issues, to look at what's happening versus, you know, you label yourself. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. Like there's so much party line stuff. And it's like, in order for politics to work, in order for there to be real change, we have to let go of these labels that we basically enslave ourselves under. Like you can make a different choice. You can make a different decision based on actual happenings, what you see, what you hear, what's happening in your state. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we have going into an election year is people are so boxed into what they are that they can't look at anything. Like you live in this echo chamber. And you just surround yourself.
Stephanie, what this is mind control. So this is intentional for you. See this 18-month plan, lockstep plan, lock you in your house, change all the public policies, you know. And guess what? And let's think, we're on New Jersey now. This might be global, might be regional, but we're on New Jersey. So you know what the two Black legislators did that didn't vote to put a seat at the table for a Black American, Latino American? Assemblyman Sumter, she fights to get a bill to indemnify the medical industry, right? I mean, would actually take my right away from doing what? Suing if something happened to one of my loved ones in the hospital. That was her first day on the job. Conaway, same thing. Conaway down in South Jersey somewhere. He doesn't work as a medical doctor to teach us about the negative effects of masks, what it's going to do to our children, know what he's doing? He's representing big pharma and big tech because he's pushing through legislation with the help of all of those other people that we were just talking about, the Black elected official, right? They're pushing it through. So what does that tell you? Yeah. What does that tell you? So this is in New Jersey. So this is what the two Black local elected officials were working on when they got back to the State House. But then when they wanted to talk about their Blackness, they marched with a mask on, the mask of despair. The mask that will cut your life expectancy down. The mask that will have you sucking in your own bile. The mask that will to cut off your immune system. Will lower your immune system. I could go on and on and on. Carbon dioxide. That's what they have planned for you. Yep. And the big pink elephant in the room, if you're really part of this Black Lives Matter, is our Black boys, our Black babies, and what's happening to them as a result of people turning a blind eye and not looking at the truth about how vaccines are impacting our babies, how vaccines are impacting New Jersey, and how much money
this is costing us. I mean, we're talking about all these budgetary issues and how much trouble we're in. How much money are we spending on the autism pandemic? I mean, you want to talk about a pandemic.
First of all, if you ask any local elected official in the state of New Jersey or in the State House, they wouldn't even know what you're talking about.
That's sad.
Even the medical doctor, because his job is to work for big pharma and big tech and create legislation to help them to take our powers away from us, to track us. So, but let's spend some time on, my community.
Please.
Where, I see a lot of Black boys and a lot of Black girls, and I've mentored a lot of these kids, and I know them, and I have a good relationship. See, I'm really from Newark, so, I grew up in the projects in the city of Newark. I grew up with two fabulous parents that moved me beyond anything that I ever thought that I would have at least the mind that I have. And I grew up in a community of people that love me. So when you talk about Black boys and you talk about Black young women or Black young men, right? I've seen the destruction from when I was growing up to now, how they are detached from what's happening globally in this world and regionally and locally, because they're dealing with things that the average person doesn't deal with. But after 50 years of Black power, assumed Black power, the illusion of Black power, or control a group of people that might control some public policy in their space, it has gotten worse for those young kids. It has gotten worse for those young men. It has gotten worse for those young women. And guess what? All of the systems that created this, as Black Americans, we supported it. We supported it. So that's a problem. We have to get honest about that. We have to tell the truth about that. So when you talk about healthcare, when you talk about healthcare disparities, when did we ever have equal healthcare in our community? When I hear Black elected officials in New Jersey talking about, we want to do a report on the economic condition of Black Americans, I'm like, are you joking? Oh, we want to do a disparity study to see how many Black businesses are and doing business. Are you kidding me? Oh, we want to do a study on what's the new study? Oh, it's a new study. I forgot there was another study. So what they do is they study with us and they use us to make their money and build their power. That's what the Black local elected official purpose is. Because we saw it in living color yesterday. It was right there in front of you. So now you talk about Black health. So I got one better for you. Because I'm going to always take care of my community. I'm always going to fight for a hospital. I'm always going to fight to build better schools. I'm always going to fight to give my kids a competitive edge. I'm always going to fight to strengthen the family core and push back on mass incarceration. I'm going to always do that. And I'm going to always fight to create adequate housing, effective housing, so kids can grow up like a family and grow up in their community like human beings. I will always fight it. I will never compromise. I won't do what those elected officials have been doing for the last 50 years in this state. Okay, that's why we're in the condition that we're in. So now, health, disparity, a little bit of COVID, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Okay, so now 7 to 8 weeks ago, I pick up the paper, which I'm like skittish about, the New York Times and the Washington Post and all these papers now, outside of maybe one in the country, they now have fully educated all of us. Everything they've been telling you thus far, we need to question because it was driven by some special interest that was motivating their bottom line. So we don't have journalists anymore. We have puppets and actors that are representing special interest groups that are not interested in telling us anything. So we don't have a government working for us anymore, and we don't have any truth seekers or journalists that are working for us anymore, right? So now you see this whole narrative, and they drive this home in New Jersey. It was like very magical. More Black Americans are dying of COVID than any other race. See, that's that divide thing. See, it's very insidious. It's very, very insidious. So now all of a sudden you have all of these Black elected officials saying, oh my God, we have to do something as more Black Americans dying of COVID. I asked one question to my friends. I said, how do you know that? I said, all of the assumptions were wrong. Why are you accepting that we're the dark face of this virus? Why are you suggesting that we should carry that burden? Because we've carried all the other bad burdens. We've carried all the other bad stuff, but they accepted it. They didn't say, well, let's find out why these people over 60 are dying. Let's talk about the procedures they're using in the hospital. Let's talk about, are the protocols efficient enough to protect our community? No, not listen to the governor, which didn't know anything, not listen to your health commissioner that was lying to you, and not damn sure listen to your mayors wouldn't know what COVID is. COVID is a mask and be scared.
Yeah.
So come on, guys. So now you see the setup, right? They did it in Africa, did it in India. They're trying to go back there and they're going to do the same game, but now they had to do it a little different here. So they had to say, more Black Americans were dying. Now, there were some people that died. I had friends that died, right? But I hate to break the bad news to you. I hate to be insensitive, but they didn't die of COVID. But we know that story now. We know they were liberal with the numbers. We know they were trying to manufacture a spike based on the testing model, based on an inconclusive test. We got it. So now in my community, right, we're not even asking the questions. We don't have anybody asking those questions that represent us at the legislature outside of one person.
Right.
Jamel Holly. And some of his colleagues on the senatorial side, they've been working with him. So we don't have representation in the health space that's effectively addressing the crisis that are in front of us. Because I was very saddened that some people across the country, especially the political class, the Democratic political class, the Black Democratic political class in New Jersey is a dismal failure. And I am responsible because I've invested. I'm an insider. We were wrong. We did not correct it. And guess what? Now we've purchased it. Okay?
Yeah.
So you gotta put the blame on yourself. So now I'm saying to those parents, don't put the blame on yourself. Go out there and do something about it.
Exactly.
I'm saying to the Black community, from a political perspective in the state of New Jersey, stop being sidelined, stop being used, stop being manipulated by a local elected official that have sold you up the river already. I'm saying to the moms that might be confused by some of the strategy that we're all engaging in nationally to make sure we coalesce together, bringing different groups together to deal with this issue. Let's not be distracted. Let's stay single focused because they're at our door. And the number one priority in our life is protecting our future, and our children are our future. So, invest your time, demonstrate some hope, demonstrate some love, and engage in action. Get past your personality, because guess what? Everybody in this country has shown us without a shadow of a doubt, from Virginia to Texas to Massachusetts to Arizona, majority of these elected officials as a group don't care about you. Now, if you buy that, God bless you. But guess what? There's a group of people out there that don't buy it. Now, back to Little New Jersey, because I know you got to go and I have to go.
We could just go on for hours,
the
right?
state of New Jersey legislative body has failed New Jersey horribly. And the leadership that's representing us in those spaces, right? To me, they have done us they're engaging in human malpractice.
I love that.
And for us to be sitting back and listening to anything that they say after they have destroyed your local economy, they have now masked you in sorrow and horror. They are now preparing to destroy the human infrastructure, right? The social infrastructure that protects our children and our children's state of mind. And they're now getting ready to break you economically. So when you go into those schools, when you go into work, when you go to use your cash card, when you go to take a breath, they're going to control you. And the Black elected official, the Black person that should understand bondage, should understand, when systems of policy is created to stop your movement, stop where you breathe, control your Black body. Yeah. Right? For them to surrender their power, we should run them out of the state. And guess what? Any governor, white, any legislator that did not stand with Jamel Holly yesterday because they chose party over people, right? They should be vilified. Anybody that's not out there fighting for our children, right? When they do it to your children, we're going to still be to protect your child. Absolutely. We're going to still be there to help you.
Absolutely.
And in closing, Stephanie, I'm glad you let me riff a little bit today, which is this.
I love when you riff. I mean, honestly, I learn so much every single time I talk to you. And my comfort level with having these uncomfortable conversations, specifically ones that involve race, you've helped me so much to overcome some of that, because it's an uncomfortable, very almost paralyzing feeling to see what's happening and to not feel comfortable to say the things that you want to say. And you have really helped me to see that I don't need to be Black to talk about what's happening in your community. I can powerfully speak to and engage with these conversations and make a difference from where I am right now. So I thank you for that.
Well, you know what? I love you. And guess what? America owes Black America. Listen, here's the deal. You are always going to have that problem. And you guess what? You should. And guess what? That's okay. You know what? Fine. But the mere fact that you're open to having a conversation that dialogue is where it all helps. That's where it gets better for us, right?
Absolutely.
So when you ask me a question, sometimes I know you don't expect my answer. I'm like, what are you talking about? Go do your job. Listen, you are not the manufacturer of racism and institutional racism. Now, have you gotten some benefit because of the science of it? Yeah, but guess what? There's a deeper conversation that we're going to have. And guess what? That's why the Urban Global Health Alliance was created. So we can expand and get to the next phase. Dig what I'm saying? The next phase. Now we're moving into becoming a political army. And a political army means we have to build our own art. We have to live our truth. We have to push past fear. And we have to grab hope. Right?
Absolutely.
So I love you.
I love you. So call to action for all of you. If you're not already part of Urban Global Health Alliance, please go on and join the conversation. The link is there, urbanglobalhealthalliance.com. We have all kinds of things happening in the realm of parents' concerns over the new education policies. We're working with educators. We want to have you at the table to have these conversations about what's going to be happening with our children, to our children, and for our children, because there is no more important legacy that we can leave to this generation of kids than freedom. So Kevin and I and all the people at Urban Global Health Alliance are committed to bringing you truth, to bringing you the hard conversations, and to making sure that we have a seat at the table and that our children's legacy is preserved. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming here, for having this conversation, and for being an incredible, incredible man. So thank you so much. All right. So this is Stephanie Lucrecio coming to you live. Kevin Jenkins and I will be back for sure with some more conversations as we move forward in New Jersey and hear more about what's going to be going on with our kids, with our money, with all of the things that are happening here. So stay tuned for updates. And thank you, as always, for joining us, for being part of the conversation. Remember, we must be the change that we wish to see in the world. So be bold, be brave, show up, rise up, stand up, take those masks off, and stand with our children for freedom. We love you.
Bye-bye.